We have a credit reference for the contract ID number 24C80001. And before we start our briefing, I
Now, in the presence of the Lord, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father in heaven, holy be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us the earth and forgive us trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Okay, good morning again. Good morning to the online viewers and to the YouTube channel. Good morning. And also to our back members. Engineer Leandro, good morning, sir. Engineer Joby, good morning. Ma'am Rose,
Morning, Ma'am.
good morning. And our box secretariat, Ma'am Gigi, good morning. Ma'am Algin,
Good morning, Ma'am Joy.
good morning. And Mr. Adrian Rodano, Karen, good morning, good morning. And Rolios, guys, good morning to all of you.
Federica.
Okay, today is the private conference on April 12, 2024. And our agenda. The agenda for private conference is number 1. The brief presentation explanation by the back of the following. A, the basic contract data, including the contract description, the ABC and duration. B, requirements of bidding documents, including instruction to bidders, general conditions of contract, special conditions of contract, specifications, drawings, bill of quantities, forms and terms of reference. In C, documents to be submitted by the bidders. A typical proposal, pick-up special literature license if applicable. B, security, authority of signing official, organizational chart for the contractor certification on paid personnel, list of major equipment, omnibus sworn statement required in RA 9184 IRR 252B4. B, financial proposal, bid form, bid prices in the bill of quantities, detailed estimates, and cost flow. D, the criteria and procedure for eligibility check, preliminary examination of bids, detailed evaluation of bids, post-qualification, and award. 2, questions, comments from bidders, and replies of BAC and other representatives of procuring entity. 3, other matters. 4, summary of proceedings, including supplemental bid bulletins to be issued. And in the contract data, I give it to the floor to Ma'am Rose Tan.
Thank you, Ma'am Vice. For the contract data, contract ID 24CSH001, contract name, Consulting Services of Preliminary Engineering, detailed engineering of various DPWH projects, contract location, Dumano, Goronda, Badian, Malabuyo, and Alegria, Cebu, ABC 5,513,000 pesos. Source of funds, SR 2024-02-009750. Contract duration, 223 calendar days. Cost of bidding documents, 10,000 pesos. For the terms of references, to be discussed by Engineer Edwin Dudano.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So allow me to discuss the 6 terms of reference of each project. So first, let me start terms of reference for construction survey and staking for flood control projects.
It was a presentation.
So I wait to make it flash on, make it visible. So first is construction survey and staking for flood control projects. So it has a 13 flood control projects, namely the construction of flood wall structures along Sitio Barangay, Sitio Sulok, left side. Next is the construction of a wetland wall along Kabalasnan River, Tumanog, Cebu. Next is construction of revetment wall along Manlapay River, Section 1, Tumanog, Cebu. Next is construction of Alegria Seawall at Alegria, Cebu. Fifth, construction of revetment wall along Malbog River, Alegria, Cebu. Six is construction of revetment wall at Barangay Montañeza to Barangay Lobo, upstream Malbog, Cebu. Seven, construction of revetment wall at Sitio Lower Talayong, Barangay Tupas to Sitio Palugbon, Barangay Libo, left side downstream, Gorda, Cebu. 8. Construction of revetment wall at Sitio Luang, Sitio Parade, Barangay Salmeron to Barangay Salsugon, Malabuyog, Cebu. Construction of Pacolog flood control upstream at Pacolog to Manok, Cebu. 10. Construction of revetment wall along Barangay Calamar River, flood control upstream at Ronda, Cebu. 11. Construction of flood wall structures along Sitio Dao, Barangay Mindanao, Malabuyog, Cebu. 12. Construction of flood wall structures along Barangay Sorsogon to Barangay Salmeron, left side, Malabuyog, Cebu. And lastly, the 13th is construction of revetment wall at Sitio Kakiro, Sitio Luang, Barangay Salmeron, Cebu. So the scope of this work is the contractor.
Number. Di mo ko andun ni. Proceed.
So these are the 13 projects. So each project would be surveyed at 500 meters each. So a total of 6,500 meters. So the scope of work is the contractor shall provide all labors, instruments, materials, supplies, vehicles, etc. necessary to perform satisfactorily the survey works period called for this. A. Establishment of horizontal and vertical grounds controls. B. Recovery of at least 3 benchmarks established with the Bureau of Coast and Geodetic Survey for vertical ground controls and Bureau of Land Location Monuments for triangulation stations for horizontal ground controls. C. Establishment of 20-meter station together with their respective cross-sections of 10 meter from upper bank, 20 and a minimum of 20-meter wide tributary. And D is computation, plotting, and preparation of survey plans. Next, allow me to discuss the terms of reference of subsoil exploration for the proposed flood control projects. Still, the affected projects are the 13 flood controls. So, so still, the 13 projects are affected. So 2 boreholes per project, the start and end, and it has a length of 15 meters each. So 15 each, 2 per project, 2 boreholes. So allow me to discuss the scope of services. So general. General. Yeah. So 2.1, the geotechnical engineer contractor shall be responsible for carrying out the conduct of detailed geotechnical and geological investigations. The consultant shall coordinate with the planning and design section, particularly on geotechnical and geological requirements stipulated in the DPWH design guidelines, criteria, and standards. Volume 2C, geological and geotechnical investigation, and Volume 6, public buildings and other related structure, and applicable provision of existing laws, codes, or department orders to minimize changes, modification in the design plans, substitution of materials, methods, and unnecessary delays in the preparation of final plans and estimate modification. 2.2. Drilling of boreholes shall be conducted at the proposed flood control project sites identified by the DPWH Cebu 7th DEO. The geotechnical engineer or contractor, after completion of the subsurface investigation, shall submit an electronic copy and hard copy of the reports and other relevant documents to the Planning and Design Section, DPWH Cebu 7th District Engineering Office. Breakthrough. The geotechnical engineer contractor must accomplish an obligated task without delay, keeping the DPWH Cebu 7th DEO advised of all progress in terms of geotechnical investigation preparation, execution, and processing. So 2.4, the geotechnical engineer contractor shall not commence the work in the field without receiving the notice to proceed from the DPWH. 2.5, the progress of work shall be reported to the DPWH throughout the tenure of this contract. So the services, geotechnical and geological investigation. The geotechnical engineer contractor shall coordinate with the DPWH Planning and Design Section, Cebu 7th DEO, the conduct of geotechnical and geological investigation for proposed flood control project sites specifically identified by the DPWH Cebu 7th. The geotechnical engineer contractor should be able to identify areas with geological problems and difficulties and water-bearing strata causing subsurface discharge, which could affect the stability of the structure. In general, the geotechnical engineer contractor shall conduct the following. Geotechnical investigation consists of but not limited to the following. Boring data with SPP and geotechnical report. 2.6.1, a total minimum of 3 boreholes for each proposed flood control. Additional boreholes shall be drilled when there is significant difference between adjacent boreholes or in areas where subsurface condition is complex. 2.6.3, in case center line is realigned, confirmatory boreholes should be deducted. Depth. If foundation type has not been identified, minimum depth is 10 meter for ordinary soil and 3 meter for sand rock. In case bearing layer is not yet encountered, boring shall be continued until preferred layer is encountered and or upon the instruction of the geotechnical engineer. So 2.6.5, standard penetration test at maximum interval of 1.5 meter and at every change in soil strata or the prescribed depth of foundation and in accordance with DPWH design guidelines, criteria, and standards, and subsurface condition at building sites. Disturbed and undisturbed samples obtained shall be subjected to physical and mechanical tests. Next, we say all pits shall be properly logged and drawn in A1 size plan, showing the thickness of each layer, the color, the type, and the visual description of each layer. Depth below the surface, depth of water if encountered, and etc. And the following laboratories and analysis shall be made on the samples taken. Mechanical analysis, hydrometer test, specific gravity, attribute limits, moisture density relationships, California bearing ratio or CBR, soil bearing capacity, pile bearing capacity, and natural moisture content. Classification of soil shall be made in accordance with ASHE N145. The geotechnical engineer contractor shall coordinate with the DPWH representative for approval if the data of each borehole is already compliant. Analysis for potential liquefaction. The geotechnical engineer contractor shall furnish copy of the boring log data of every borehole prior to hole-to-hole transfer. Next is the location of each borehole shall be reflected in the foundation plans, including the elevation. So that's all for the subsurface exploration for flood control projects. Now, next is the terms of preference for hydraulic and hydrologic analysis for proposed flood control projects.
Un second, Doon.
I,
Nga slide. Lahi.
so the terms of reference for hydraulic and hydrologic analysis of the proposed flood control projects. Still, this is the 13 flood control projects. So one each for hydraulic and hydrologic analysis. So let's proceed for the scope of the services. So in general, the hydraulic engineer, contractor, the hydraulic engineer contractor shall be responsible for carrying out the conduct of detailed hydraulic and hydrologic analysis. The consultant shall coordinate with the planning and design section, particularly on hydrologic and hydraulic design requirements stipulated in the DPWH design guidelines, criteria, and standards. Bridge design, Volume 5, 2015, and applicable provisions of the 16 laws, codes, or department orders to minimize changes, modification in the design plans, substitutions of materials, methods, and unnecessary delays in preparations of final plans and estimate notification. Next is the hydraulic engineer contractor. After completion of the hydraulic and hydrologic analysis and design, shall submit an electronic copy and hard copy of the reports and other relevant documents to the planning and design section, DPWH Cebu 7th DEO. Next is the 23. The hydraulic engineer contractor must accomplish all obligated tasks without delay, keeping the DPWH Cebu 7th advised of all progress in terms of geotechnical investigation, preparation, execution, and processing. 2.4. The hydraulic engineer contractor shall not commence the work in field without receiving the notice to proceed from the DPWH. 2.5. The progress of work shall be reported to the DPWH throughout the tenure of this contract. Yes. Next would be the services, hydraulic and hydrologic analysis. The hydraulic engineer contractor shall coordinate with the DPWH planning and design section, Cebu 7th DEO, the conduct of hydraulic and hydrologic for the proposed flood control sites and specifically identified by the district DEO. The hydraulic engineer contractor should be able to identify areas with geological problems and difficulties and water-bearing struggle, causing subsurface discharge, which could affect the stability of the structure. Hydrological and hydraulic and consist of limited to the following. So hydraulic and hydrologic report, 2.6.1, design discharge, scar and water surface profile. 2.6.2, flood flow investigation report including but not limited to the following. Assessment of flood hazards and meeting plain management requirements. Assessment of risks to highway users, damage to the slope protection structure, bridges and its roadway approaches, overtopping flood and for the design flood level for the bridge scar. Assessment of catastrophic flood damage at highway sites, and its investigation of adequacy of bridge foundation to resist scar, compliance to agency design policies and criteria, design plots for waterway, opening and scar for the functional classes of highways, calibrated water surface profiles and to evaluate the performance of existing structures, historical floods crossing the spring and the tide range. So 2.7, duration and sequence of hydraulic and hydrologic analysis and structural analysis and design. All works, including office preparation of data, shall be completed in 168 calendar days after the issuance of the NTP. Material to be submitted in 3 set copies to be submitted upon completion at the end of the duration of the surveys, incorporating the following. 1. Final hydraulic and hydrologic analysis incorporating the following. Ordinary water level or normal water level, maximum flood level, design flood, check flood, design flood level, ultimate level state flood. Electronic copy of hydraulic and hydrologic analysis and structural analysis of the design in DVD, including plans and cross-section details in DWG format. That will be all for the control projects. Now let's proceed to FTP and bridge project. So first is the terms of reference for miscellaneous survey and staking for the proposed bridge project. So it has consistently one for Serena for FTP and bridges project. It is Organizational outcome one ensures safe and reliable national road system, bridge program, replacement of permanent link bridges, Takpun Bridge 2 along Santander Valley Toledo Road. So, let me discuss the scope of work. So the scope of work, the contractor shall provide all labors, instruments, materials, supplies, vehicles, each time necessary to perform satisfactorily the survey works here called for these. A. Establishment of horizontal and vertical cross control. Recovery of at least 3 benchmarks established with the Bureau of Coast and Geodetic Survey for vertical grounds and Bureau of Land Location Monuments for triangulation stations for horizontal ground controls. C. Establishment of lot boundaries, existing structures, elevation and distance from the nearest hinterland and access road to the proposed site, computation, plotting, and preparation of survey plans. And next is terms of reference for subsoil investigation of proposed bridge and school building projects. So it has one bridge and 5 school buildings. So for a bridge project, because it's a third single span it is a single span bridge. So it only needs 2 borehole with 30 meters in length or depth. And for the school buildings, 50 meters for 2 boreholes. So a total of 12 boreholes with a total length of 210. So allow me to discuss the scope of services for the soil investigation and proposed bridge and school building. The geotechnical engineer contractor shall be responsible for carrying out the conduct of detailed geotechnical and geological investigation. The consultant shall coordinate with the planning and design section, particularly on geotechnical geological requirements stipulated in the DPWH design guidelines, criteria and standards, volume 2C, geological and geotechnical investigation, and volume 6, public buildings and other related structure, and applicable provision of existing laws, codes, or department orders to minimize changes, modification to design plans, substitution of materials, methods, and unnecessary delays in the preparation of final plans and estimate. Drilling of boreholes shall be conducted at 1 bridge and 5 multi-purpose buildings identified by the DPWH within Dumango, Badjan, and Ronda. The consultant, after completion of the subsurface investigation, shall submit an electronic copy and hard copy of the reports and other relevant documents to the planning and design section, DPWH Cebu 7th District Engineering Office. The geotechnical engineer contractor must accomplish all obligated tasks without delay, keeping the DPWH Cebu 7th DEO advised of all progress in terms of geotechnical investigation preparation. The geotechnical engineer contractor shall not commence the work in field without receiving the notice to proceed from the DPWH. The progress of work shall be reported to the DPWH throughout the tenure of this contract. And for the services, geotechnical and geological investigation, the geotechnical engineer contractor shall coordinate with the DPWH planning and design sections through 7th DEO the conduct of geotechnical and geological investigation multi-purpose building sites specifically identified by the DPWH Cebu 7th. The geotechnical engineer contractor should be able to identify areas with geological problems and difficulties and water bearing stratum causing subsurface discharge, which could affect the stability of the structure. In general, the geotechnical engineer shall conduct the following. Geotechnical investigation consists of that but limited following. Boring data with SPP and geotechnical report. A total of 2 boreholes for structures less than 300 square meter. In area, at least 3 boreholes for larger building, or a maximum of 1 borehole for every 200 square meter of structure. So the depth. The large structure with separate postings faithfully. Boring shall be extended to a depth of 50 meters for flood control and 30 meter for bridge or until three successive SPPN values greater than 30 are recorded. Standard penetration test an interval of 1.5 meter and at every change in soil strata or to prescribe of depth of foundation and in accordance with DPWH design guidelines criteria and standards and subsurface condition at building sites. Disturbed and undisturbed samples of clay shall be subjected to physical and mechanical tests. All pits shall be properly logged and drawn in A1 size plan, showing the thickness of each layer, the color, the type, and visual description of each layer, depth below the surface, depth of water level, and etc. The following laboratory tests and analysis shall be made on the samples taken: mechanical analysis, hydrometric test, specific gravity, Atterberg limits, moisture density relationships, California bearing ratio, soil bearing capacity, pile bearing capacity, and natural moisture content. Classification of soil shall be made in accordance with ASH 145. The geotechnical engineer shall coordinate with the DPWH representative for approval if the data of each borehole is already compliant. Analysis for potential liquefaction. The geotechnical engineer shall furnish copy of the boring log data of every borehole prior to hole transfer. The location of each borehole shall be reflected in the foundation plan, including the elevation. And that will be all for the terms of reference for subsoil definition of proposed bridge and school building projects. And lastly is the terms of reference for structural analysis and the design of proposed bridge project. So it has only consists one project only the replacement of permanent bridges upon bridge 2 alongside the third valley level. So the scope of this work is the structural engineer or contractor shall be responsible for carrying out the conduct of detailed structural analysis and design. The consultant shall coordinate with the planning and design section, particularly on structural design requirements stipulated in the DPWH design guidelines, NSFP 2015, and applicable provision of existing laws, codes, or department order to minimize changes, modification in the design plans, substitution of materials, methods, and unnecessary delays in the preparation of final plans and estimates. So next is the structural engineer. After completion of the structural analysis and the design, shall submit an electronic copy and a hard copy of the reports and other relevant documents to the planning design section, DPWH Cebu 7th District Engineering Office. The structural engineer or contractor must accomplish all completed tasks without delay, keeping the DPWH Cebu 7th DEO advised of all progress in terms of geotechnical investigation, preparation, execution, and processing. The structural engineer or contractor shall commence the work in field without receiving the notice to proceed for the DPWH. The progress of work shall be reported to the DPWH throughout the tenure of this contract. B. The services, structural analysis and design. The structural engineer contractor shall coordinate with the DPWH planning and design section, Cebu 7th DEO, the conduct of structural analysis and design for the proposed multi-port IV proposed bridge project, specifically identified by the Cebu 7th DEO. The structural engineer contractor should be able to identify areas with geological problems and difficulties and water waves that are causing subsurface discharge, which could affect the stability of the structure. Structural analysis and design for system of but not limited. Structural analysis and design. Upon completion of the field investigation and laboratory testing program, the structural engineer will compile, evaluate, and interpret data and perform structural analysis and design for the foundation, abutment, and pier and other required facilities. Additionally, the structural engineer will be responsible for producing a report that presents the complete structural frame design data, alternative type of structure, analysis and results, and provide specific technical specification and recommendation. So duration of and sequence of structural analysis and design. All works, including office preparation of data, shall be completed in 25 calendar days after the issuance of NTP. And I think that would be all, Sir Joe, for the terms of references of the projects of flood control and building and bridges.
Thank you, Engineer Angelino.
Next thing. After Cebu. Nine.
The terms of reference, requests for expression of interest, and eligibility forms are now available at DPWH and PhilJEP's websites. A complete set of bidding documents may be acquired by interested bidders on March 29, 2024 to April 24, 2024 from DPWH Cebu 7th District Engineering Office, Cogon Cebu, and upon payment of the applicable fee for the bidding documents pursuant to the latest guidelines issued by the GBTP. The bank shall draw up a short list of consulting firms from those who have submitted eligibility documents, expression of interest, and have been determined as eligible in accordance with the provisions of Republic Act Number 9184, RA Number 9184, otherwise known as the Government Procurement Reform Act, and its revised implementing rules and regulations. The criteria and rating system for shortlisting are experience of the firm, 60 points, availability of required personnel of the firm, 10 points, workload, 30 points, total 100 points. Eligible bidders must obtain the passing score of 80 points to qualify in the shortlist. Bidding will be conducted through open competitive bidding procedure upon an discretionary pass or fail criterion as specified in the revised IRR of RA number 9184. Bidding is restricted to Filipino citizens, sole proprietorship, partnerships, or organizations with at least 60% interest of outstanding capital stock belonging to citizens of the Philippines. The office conducted shortlisting last April 5, 2024, and upon evaluation, the contractor terms concrete testing, has the experience of the firm, 55.2, availability of required personnel of the firm, 10 points, workload, 28 points, which total to 93.20 points, which is passed. In lieu of the Class A eligibility documents mentioned under Section 8.5.2 of the IRR of RA 9184, the prospective bidder shall only submit a valid and updated PhilJEP Certificate of Registration and Membership Platinum in accordance with Section 8.5.2 of the IRR for purposes of determining eligibility. The failure by the prospective bidder to update its certificate with the current and updated Class A eligibility documents shall result in the automatic suspension of the validity of its PhilJEP certificate until such time that all the expired Class A eligibility documents has been updated. The procuring entity shall evaluate bids using the quality cost-based evaluation procedure, whereby each consultant shall be required to submit technical and financial proposals simultaneously in separate sealed envelopes. After receipt of bids, the technical proposal of the consultant shall first be opened, evaluated, and ranked in descending order. Based on the numerical rating of their technical proposal, the highest rated bid shall be identified. After approval by the head of the procuring entity of the highest rated bid, Its financial proposal shall then be opened and shall be determined as either eligible or ineligible. The Department of Public Works and Highways reserve the right to reject any and all bids, annul the bidding process, or not award the contract at any time prior to contract award, without thereby incurring any liability to the affected bidder or bidders. For further information, please refer to Ryan B. Garma, Engineer 2, OIC Procurement Head, DPWH Cebu 7th District Engineering Office, Colon Dumanhog, Cebu, email address procurement.cebu7th@gmail.com. You may visit the following website for downloading of bidding documents: www.dpwh.gov.ph and www.philjeps.gov.ph. You may visit the following website for downloading of bidding documents: www. For eligibility criteria, the following persons or entities shall be allowed to participate in the bidding for consulting services: duly licensed Filipino citizens or sole proprietorships, partnerships duly authorized under the law of the Philippines and reach at least 60% of the interest belongs to citizens of the Philippines. Corporation duly organized under the laws of the Philippines and of which at least 60% of the standing capital stock belongs to citizens of the Philippines. Cooperatives duly organized under the law of the Philippines or persons, entities forming themselves into a joint venture, a group of two or more persons, entities that intend to be jointly and severally responsible or liable for a particular contract, provided, however, that Filipino ownership or interest thereof shall be at least 60%. For this purpose, Filipino ownership or interest shall be based on the contributions of each of the members of the joint venture as specified in their GBV. When the types and fields of consulting services involve the practice of professions regulated by law, those who will actually perform the services shall be Filipino citizens and registered professionals authorized by the appropriate regulatory body to practice those professions and allied professions specified in the ETS. If the request for expression of interest allows participation of foreign consultants, prospective foreign bidder may be eligible subject to the conditions stated in the ETS. Government-owned or controlled corporations may be eligible to participate only if they can establish that they are legally and financially autonomous, operate under commercial law, and are not attached agencies of the procuring entity. For the eligibility requirements, the following eligibility requirements together with the eligibility documents submission form shall be submitted on or before the date of the eligibility check specified in the request for expression of interest and classified for purposes of determining eligibility of prospective bidders. Class A documents, legal documents, PhilJEP's Certificate of Registration and Membership in accordance with Section 8.5.2 of the IRR. For procurement to be performed overseas, it shall be subject to the guidelines to be issued by the GPPU. For the technical documents, statement of the prospective bidder of all its ongoing and completed government and private contracts, including contracts awarded but not yet started, if any, whether similar or not similar in nature and complexity to the contract to be bid, within the relevant period provided in the ETS. The statement shall include for each contract the following: the name and location of the contract, date of award of the contract, type and brief description of consulting services, consultant role, whether main consultant, sub-consultant, or partner in a JV, amount of contract, contract duration, and certificate of satisfactory completion or equivalent documents specified in the EDS issued by the client in the case of a completed contract. Statement of the consultant specifying its nationality and confirming that those who will actually perform the services are registered professionals with clause 1.2, including the respective curriculum vitae. Class B documents. If applicable to the joint venture agreement, in case the joint venture is already in existence, or duly notarized statement for all the potential joint venture partners in accordance with section 24.1 B of the IRR of RA 9184. The eligibility requirements of statements, the deeds, and all other documents to be submitted to the bank must be in English. If the eligibility requirements for statements, the deeds, and all other documents submitted to the bank are in foreign language other than English, it must be accompanied by the translation of the documents in English. The documents shall be translated by the relevant foreign government agency, the foreign government agency authorized to translate documents, or a registered translator in the foreign bidder's country, and shall be authenticated by the appropriate Philippine Foreign Service Establishment or POS, or the equivalent office having jurisdiction over the foreign bidders affair in the Philippines. The English translation shall govern for purposes of interpretation of the bid. Prospective bidders may obtain a full range of expertise by associating with individual consultants and/or other consultants or entities through a JV or subcontracting arrangements as appropriate. However, some consultants may only participate in the bid of one shortlisted consultant. Foreign consult Foreign consultants shall seek the participation of Filipino consultants by entering into a JV with or subcontracting part of the project to Filipino consultants. Format and signing of eligibility documents. Prospective bidders shall submit their eligibility documents to their duly authorized representative on or before the deadline specified in clause 5. Prospective bidder shall prepare original copies of the eligibility documents. In the event of any discrepancy between the original and the copies, the original shall prevail. The eligibility documents submission form shall be signed by the duly authorized representatives of the bidder. Failures to do so shall be ground for rejection of the eligibility documents. Any interminations, erasures, or overwriting shall be valid only if they are signed or initialed by the duly authorized representative of the prospective bidder. Bid submitted by the bank electronically